for the final segment of day one of the Funnel 5 Ignite Hearts and Minds Conference. And we're going to bring in some of the fantastic contributors and presenters of the day. Brandon Spencer, James Cordner. How you guys doing, man? Welcome.
Doing well. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Conversation.
Well, you both brought, extreme fuego to the conference with your presentations, like you guys always do, right? But I love, I keep saying this word clarity, but this is something that I talk about recently on how it's so important. I mean, what is occultism is a great example. People think it's this old or ancient category of information when it's actually very relevant today. It's just that communicating and adding that clarity. What does this mean? Right? Getting down to that meaning of certain topics. And you both in your presentations bring incredible clarity to these topics that a lot of people need to talk about and act upon.
Well, that's the goal. Really, something that you say that sparks inspiration and creativity in my mind is, Will, you say to simplify the profound, right? Isn't that correct?
Correct.
And that to me is such a powerful statement to really just get one going. To motivate. It's a motivation thing for me when I hear you say that, because it gives me kind of something to put in my crosshairs,
Yeah, for sure. We do have a list of questions, but I want to ask both of you, what was the main inspiration? And again, people can go back and watch the presenter interviews because they're just a great little segments that it's almost like an addendum to the presentations that are going in the conference. But what was that main factor? Why that presentation? Why that that information conveyed?
Brandon?
Well, mine is I'm kind of keeping the theme from a lot of my previous funnel presentations. I always try to bring in the importance of understanding, the Trinity or the three in one. So, always try to bring focus, toward that and just bring it more clear, keeping things simple. But yeah, that really is what inspires me is, having people see the work and them being able to gauge it and going and, looking at all of my other previous work and not just watching, one thing and, coming up with their own, conclusion to not just believe, what I'm saying or anything like that, but, get them to kind of understand we always should be going back to the knowledge and learning more in whatever topic it is. And, hopefully you can see that, with the simplicity of these presentations. So, try to inspire, others to, always go back to that drawing board to take in more data, taking more information, because there's always something, have more that we can bring to these topics. And that's why, always try to go deeper with our own, knowledge and to keep challenging our own selves and to, just not, to not ever really be, toward the end to want to keep learning and growing and not be satisfied and to keep wanting more. And to, keep having that fire, burn, because that was one of the things, right? I'm always trying to bring that passion and that fire, hopefully is seen in my work. And then too, the tough love really is one of the things that inspired me. I always look at, a lot of the things that I've gone through, and I realize a lot of people may necessarily didn't get that tough love, aspect, because that's something that I think is missing out. And that's one of the things that really does, help inspire me. I think Derek knows and, Chris knows I'm a very disciplined, big-headed, individual. But I think that's much needed because that tough love, is one that kind of brings us back to those principles and never forget, those principles that we should all, hold deep to our hearts.
I love that, Brandon. I really do. tough love is something that doesn't get expressed properly. It's usually something that comes out as abrasive or abusive, and it's not really something that's, actually just really thought through and thought about really, and delivered in a way to actually convey the message of care in a way that's like, hey, you knucklehead, fucking listen to me, will you? And I think you do really, really do a really great job at really delivering that. You had me in stitches at the end of your presentation, and it was a breath of fresh air to hear it come from you in such a way. But so my answer to the question and what inspires me is my enemy, which is the government. They inspire me every day to stand up and speak out against them, because somebody has to do it. And plenty of people are doing it, more and more so as time goes on. But I could sit here and tell you that it's my kids or it's my, my wife or whatever, but really they make me want to just grab anybody I can and just tell them, what's really going on. So it's pretty simple for me.
Excellent. Brandon Martin, thanks for joining us. An incredible presentation, man. I'm thoroughly looking forward to see the full extended version. What did you say, about 3 hours it turned out?
Yeah, about 3 hours.
Oh, let me see. We got your volumes coming in pretty low. I might be able to raise it on my end real quick. Okay.
Is that better?
No, it's almost
Oh, I see why. It's going
Okay.
through a different
Did you select the proper audio input?
Yeah, it kind of sounded like it was like a internal,
Like a camera mic or
computer
something?
Camera mic, yeah.
Do the camera mic. Is that better?
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Yay.
All right,
Perfect,
cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's about 3 hours. I recorded over 4 hours of content for it. And, it's always that way whenever I put together a presentation with slides, unless it's just like a free flow speech. I end up with a huge amalgamation of data, and I have to cut it down and keep cutting it down and distilling it into something that's workable, obviously. And, I was rushing to, so I'm a new father. So life has been very busy and very chaotic and very blessed and very awesome. And so, getting this together has gave me a lot of motivation because I haven't been able to do much work lately on the Seed Truth Academy. So it's just been a wonderful process. And this is a topic that I've been wanting to put forward on the table for many years now. So this gave me the opportunity, especially with the main theme of the Funnel conference being Ignite. I felt that it aligned perfectly with those principles.
Awesome. Yeah. And Thelema's one of those, schools, mystery traditions that's extremely underrated or misunderstood. There's a lot of ignorance and misinformation there. So it's great to see that fresh approach and that clarity again.
Yes, absolutely. And the next part really reveals a lot more, and it gets deep into natural law. It, gets really deep into what law actually is. And, I talk about whether man can actually create law at all. If that's a legitimate process, can you actually create law at all? Which we all know that's not true here at this conference, but I explain it in a philosophical sense. And that's something that really inspires me and it has always inspired me. To the question that was asked actually was just the mysteries of the mind and the mysteries of the universe was my first inspiration into this work. And then from there, it was recognizing the condition of humanity and what we were up against. And then from there, obviously people like yourselves keep me motivated to keep and continuing to do this work along with my family and other people's family, and just, for posterity and progeny mainly, because, we have to be able to keep this torch alive and pass these ideas down. And if we don't get our minds correct epistemically, metaphysically, and ethically, then we're pretty much fucked, is what it is. So,
That's right.
yep.
Excellent. And we got Tyler Bloyer in the house. You had an incredible presentation as well, man. So the question was, what inspired you to do that topic for the Funnel 5 conference?
Yeah, thanks, Will. Well, and also, again, thank all you guys for putting this on. I know it's a lot of work, and all the energy that went into it, really appreciate it. And I think the audience got a lot out of it today. When you asked when you asked me to come on, I had really it came to me right away. That presentation had been cooking in the background for quite some time, and so when the opportunity came, it wasn't really a question what I would present. And then since then, as that 6 months went by, I don't know if it's just what I'm paying attention to out there, but it just seemed like, okay, more and more, this is becoming a real issue that we need to. But like I was saying in the presentation, we don't really have any time now. There isn't any time left for us to decide, what we're going to do. And still, am I going to be a lazy ass still, or am I going to actually do something? I mean, that time is kind of past now. And now we're being faced with real consequences from our apathy overall, not anybody here and not anybody that participated in this conference, but as a collective whole, we're going to start learning those lessons a lot sooner than just saying, oh, natural law is going to catch up with us in this long far out thing that we're never really going to understand. Like, no, we're all going to start to see some of the consequences unfold relatively quickly here, I would say. Not to be a downer or anything like that.
No, man, I think it's like the ball's been rolling down the hill. A lot of times when you try to talk to folks about the concept, whether you use, some of you discuss the different terms. James was using the term voluntarism. Tyler, you were not so fond of that term. I kind of going back and forth too. Like if I talk with just someone I meet about anarchy, usually the point of view, the perspective of the average person we might discuss this concept with has been like, how's this going to work out for me in the coming days, weeks, months, and years of my life? Like, how are we going to turn things around so I don't have to experience all this, terrible outcomes? And it's like, well, it's too late. I mean, the ball's already rolling down the hill. Now we have to reap whatever comes out there in the material world. But that doesn't mean that we can't be here rethinking how we go about things from here forward. And that's really the key. Is it's not just about me and what troubles I might experience in the coming days. It's about, what do I leave as a legacy that lasts, and what can other people take away, and how could this actually build into a fire that could work towards actual human freedom? It would take people like us consistently making efforts in that direction despite uncomfortable situations we might be facing.
Yeah, well said. I mean, this is kind of the point of having Ignite, fire year, right? Forward motion. It's not time to be passive. Like, people need to do something now, right? So we need to stop living in this they have it type of mentality. I mean, we see even with like the Epstein files, right? Yeah, there's horrible shit in there. Like, that's what people have been saying for many, many years. But that's part. It's one of the biggest occult mockeries, I think, that we've seen in many years. For them to put this out to the public, like, yeah, so what? What you gonna do, right? Throw it out in the public like that and watch people kind of squirm, and still they get this fixation with their attention. Like, we need to be in that active participation towards actual real solutions, and it is that go time. So that is the embodiment of the fire element 100%, and it needs to be honed, harnessed, focused, and kindled.
Harnessed like a saddle of a horse. Let's saddle up, guys. Fire horse 2026 in the mix, right?
Yeah, that was very well said. Very well said. I've been talking to a lot of people about the Epstein files, and a lot of people don't really understand the mechanisms and the tier grade initiations of the dark occult. And they don't understand, some people do understand about blackmail within the institutions, obviously, but they have no real comprehension of how sophisticated it gets when it comes to the methodologies and compartmentalization within the higher echelons of the occult. One thing that I have been stating, and a lot of people may actually not agree with me on this, but at the highest echelons of the dark occult, they are not PDFs. Okay. What they want is to propagate that idea and that methodology down to lower level individuals, usually people in power positions, being in the banks, representatives, politicians, anything like that. And the Epstein thing was a methodology being used specifically to garner leverage over people, obviously, and a lot of people understand that, but they think that that's the pinnacle of the dark occult, and it's not. It's just one apparatus, and it's no different than anything that's been going on throughout all human history. You know, rape, child trafficking, all kinds of stuff. Human trafficking has been going on since, you know, the beginning of the state and the beginning of the dark occult. That is nothing new. This stuff that we're seeing now is just a big red herring, and that is even if the files themselves are even true. So you even have to ask whether that disclosure, how do you validate that, right? You need to ask, like, what's the methodology for validating those emails, those connections, those people, those files? You don't have access to that. There is no disclosure really coming from government. And if you still count on these authorities to give you disclosure, then you're still falling for the mind control methodologies. And people fall for it left and right. And the final thing I'll say on that is that it's in the realm of effects and it's not in the realm of mind, meaning that you have no power to create change there. You need to get your mind in order first so that you can prevent those things from happening. If that is taking place, which we all know that it actually is, then we need to set up preventative measures by increasing our heart-based consciousness and increasing our mental faculties and creating cultures that are actually going to be sufficient at defending against that kind of predatory infiltration and predatory behaviors.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely, 100%. And just real quick, we got Woody Martin from arttowill.com. Thanks for joining us, brother. Oh, you got, let me see.
Sorry, it's a little dark.
That's all right. That's all right. I asked the other the presenters, what was the main inspiration? I love the animations that you have. I love that angle. What was that inspiration? Because you created some new animations for this conference, right?
Correct. Yeah.
We might not have played them yet because we have a whole segment for day 2 as well. So, but can you talk a little bit about the inspiration for creating those for the Funnel 5 Ignite?
Well, I've always looked at things a little differently than people. And so, of course, when I'm going to make something, I'm going to make it a little different. And, I was classically trained in traditional animation. And I just think that it's a great art form for people, for kids, it's just like a fun way to see stuff. And using the beautiful backgrounds and stuff that I've been doing is kind of like trying to bring that beauty in too. And with the Bigfoot concept, it's been interesting playing with like the concept of an outsider kind of observing humanity scientifically and then conveying this natural law message to us, like he's that he's already living it in like this alternate society on Earth, separate from us. And so I find that legend to be fantasy. And there are a lot of people out there that have proof of his existence and all this stuff. So, but it's fun playing with these ideas. I thought about using an alien and stuff, but I'm like, no, Bigfoot's here on Earth, so let's play with that idea. And I'm like, if he's here, if he really does exist, he's got to be peaceful, because otherwise he'd be making messes all over the place, and we would find him real quick. So, but yeah, art has always been like a fountain for me, and my name, even my parents named me Woody for a reason, because my father, actually, Brandon, who played guitar earlier, reminds me a lot of my father. And my father passed away 2 years ago, I think. But anyways, they named me after Woody Guthrie, who, if you know a lot about music and the history of music, he was a big, beatnik poet back, a long time ago. And really was, he had a sticker on his guitar and it said, "This machine kills fascists," or something like that. It was pretty rad. So he was a guy that was before his time for sure. And
Alice's Restaurant.
yeah, and people might be more familiar with his son Arlo Guthrie, which I don't know if it had as much activism in him as his father, but what can you do? But yeah, so I've been always, from my childhood, been exposed to creativity and exploring that, and so my inspiration just comes from having, shining that light to other people so they can have that inspiration. And because I believe they call this realm the present, because it is a present. We are actually, this is a gift for us to be in this reality. And I'm acting through my art. That's why I call my art, my website, Art's Will, is because the will of art can actually is like a form of rhetoric that can help shape people's worldview and philosophies. So, and Brandon Martin is an expert on the symbolism of that, probably even more than I am. And I'm definitely a student always, and I'm definitely going to be looking at a lot more of Brandon's work in the future. And I've seen his work in the past too, and I'm very into like kind of bringing this message to children too. And I would say my Bigfoot cartoons I would say it's probably, you could probably show it to little kids if you wanted to, but as a parent, I'd say maybe watch it first, but I would say it's more for teens. But I do have a children's book that's a separate thing, but you can get to it from the Artswell website still as well. But yeah, it's such an amazing event. I really thank all of the organizers of this thing for putting this thing together. This is actually like the first freedom conference I've participated in, so I'm very excited about that, and I'm striving to participate in many more. Yeah.
Awesome. Like that attitude, because I'm sure there's going to be some coming up. Hint, hint. Seed conference. But yeah, man, that's great. We need all different types of realms of creation, and I dig it. So I appreciate you and the contribution, and look forward to the other pieces that we have for day 2.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been trying to put these Bigfoot cartoons out weekly, and so I've got over, I think with the ones I've made for FUNL, I'm up to like 29 total episodes or transmissions, I'm calling them, and they're all short. They're like bite-sized chunks for people in this day of 80 HD everywhere, like boom, boom, boom. I gotta do this, that. For like it's like entry level stuff for people to chew on, bite-sized nuggets that they can, digest and then go through at their own pace. So that's kind of my approach right now.
Cool, man. That's awesome. That's good to hear. And then we have Logan Hart. Logan Makes Noise, which you were making some great fucking noise, man, in those clips, man. I was dying laughing. It looked like the chat was kind of enjoying the voice impressions. So, yeah, thanks for jumping on that. You and I talked. It was kind of like a last-minute deal, and I'm like, yeah, do it. And you cranked them out, and it worked.
Yeah. It really worked out great. It's really incredible how just a few days ago we were kind of just like, why not, And then I just got down on it, came up with some scripts and recorded them all in one sitting, and then just edited the next night and uploaded them to Drive for you. So yeah, that idea actually came about like 3 years ago. I think it was Funnel 3. And the original idea was like Alex Jones doing a commercial for Funnel between the shows. And of course, so I had to have Alex in there talking about his lizard repellent, Yeah, no, that was so much fun. So I'm glad that worked out. And I guess to kind of just go with the question, that you've been posing to everyone. For me, I mean, the task at hand, and then I've got a list of like 275 something voices that I have. Of course, me a Virgo, I'm gonna have a list for everything, so I got to keep track of it, and then just kind of handpicked out ones that I thought was a good, at least either relevant to the freedom crowd or just really well known. Obviously your Christopher Walken and stuff like that. Everybody knows that. But like a Ben Shapiro, a David Icke, those aren't necessarily viral. Like those are pretty niche. So it's exciting to be able to bust those out to people that actually will know who that is and appreciate that. So I try to hit a balance of like popular versus niche, and then just make all of the actual scripts relevant to freedom, and almost like they're kind of like speaking on behalf, to the conference and everything. So
sweet, dude. That's awesome, man. So we do have a few questions, and I know we got a lot of people in the roundtable. That's great. We'll just kind of, whoever jumps in, free flow, and we'll kind of take turns and answer some of these questions. And I think I want to start with this one because I think it's very relevant, even for people that are, kind of in this realm, or, just considering the external factors. And I'll put this on the screen. Question: should the truth community give in to the fear of AI? And CD, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, it's used to TPTB, and I'm not sure what that stands for. Or should we use it ourselves as a tool in our fight for freedom? And how do we do that safely and responsibly?
TPTB means the powers that be.
The powers that be, got it.
The word that is seed. So to like let it happen. Step aside and let it happen, I think.
Perfect.
Since I'm here, no, the truth, the truth community giving into fear, I guess, is kind of counterproductive and counterintuitive to its entire purpose. But yeah, AI is quite a powerful tool, but it is just a tool, isn't it? So it just depends on how we're using it. Can you put the question back up, Will?
Yeah,
please, so I can stay on. Yeah, just like any other tool, how we use it safely and responsibly is obviously, sorry to sound pretentious by saying obviously, but it's to first establish a foundation of morality and aligning with that. After that, any tool that we can possibly use is going to be used properly and safely and responsibly, aside from unpredictable accidents that will happen. We should use it as a tool in the fight for freedom, but it's kind of a delicate balance, in my opinion, because it could become too powerful. I mean, we see it. Maybe it's just me falling prey to some of the movies that have been put out there in the past, but we've seen it happen in movies where, all of a sudden Skynet's a thing, but those are things that are done by governments. So if we're doing, our part by using it to like maybe render thumbnails and to help edit maybe a speech or something like that, I don't see any harm in doing that and using it for that. Unfortunately, the powers that be are probably responsible for its creation in the first place. So they kind of have the tool first. And if it's like any other technology that we've seen come out, what is it? The idea is that anything that we have, they have something, 40 years in the future or something like that. I'm messing that up, but imagine, the power that they actually have for military purposes and things like that. So it's quite an uphill battle, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Tyler's presentation really spoke to this question and hammered on the actual the ethics of the question. I think everybody here, or at least most of the people here, understand that AI is it's a neutral thing currently, but there are dangers to it, obviously. I use it for research purposes. I've used it for many, many different things. I do, however, find it very inauthentic for people to just straight copy paste without editing things. It's fine to use a little bit here and there, obviously, but like when you're in a debate with somebody and they just copy paste a Chat GPT or Grok, response to you, it's not an authentic response from that individual's mind, and that's one of the things that I currently see as a huge issue for the level of it that the public has access to, that people are using it as a crutch for actual real gathering of real knowledge and understanding the real knowledge. So it's a streamlined thing, just kind of like what Brandon Spencer was talking about with the shorts and the TikToks. It's just like, oh, I can be, smart instantly if I just go right to Chat GPT and then I have everything I need right here and I can debate anybody. Unless you're using it properly, then no, you're probably a freaking retard is what you are. You're a dunce and you have no idea what you're talking about. It takes years of integration of these philosophical ideas and studying the books, studying the actual authors, studying the traditions and the culture and the history. It's not something that you're just going to pick up on. It's the what is it called? The Dunning-Kruger effect. Where these people think they have some knowledge, and then a brick wall is going to hit them, and then they're going to be like, "Oh man, I broke my fucking nose real quick." When they come against a scholar or an actual theologist or an academic of any kind, and this has been crucial for my work, not to have a side topic here, but is that we have to exceed scholarship when it comes to this information. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Yes, you can get to the people at the lower education levels, but you're trying to raise them up, first of all. But then one reason why they don't listen to you is because they believe in authority, obviously. And who are the authorities of their education? The scholars, the academics. So we have to change the methodology and the ideologies of the scholars by what Joseph Conrad was really talking about, getting our philosophy sound. And that also applies to this AI usage and how we're going to approach it in the future. There's a lot of questions and a lot of dangerous grounds with AI. We shouldn't be at this level right now, is what it is. We shouldn't be fucking around with it the way that we are without the correct moral principles. And again, I think Tyler really did a great job at bringing that to the table and showing that, technology is it's an amplifier of the ideas, of the axioms and the morals that we actually have. And as James just said, who's raising AI? the military complex, you know? So just be very careful, but also understand that as anarchists and as freedom fighters, yes, you need to have every tool at your disposal, including AI. And as the culture advances into more utilitarian purposes, then yes, you're going to need to use it to fight back, just like in the Matrix.
Absolutely. If we were going to say we shouldn't use these tools because, you know, it was developed or used by the government, then we wouldn't be able to use any of the technology, because the way our world has evolved and all the technologies that have been created have basically been facilitated by some sort of government grant or government, you know, operation. So DARPA and ARPANET was the internet, you know. So like you guys were saying, they typically have these technologies developed years ahead of time before we get access to it. But it would be a fallacy to then say, oh, well, then we shouldn't use any of these technology. We do have to be somewhat pragmatic about it. I like what James and Brandon both said about the approach. We can't just really say, well, we're going to completely go back to the Stone Age and not use any of these things because it was all created in this certain way, right? That wouldn't be an approach that would be very effective at this point. So yeah, we have to work in the mess that we're in. And unfortunately, yeah, now it's going to be exponentially faster, the mess and the consequences of the actions that are taken, like the recent example with Anthropic, not liking how Palantir had used some of their technology. And, you know, I think that's a good example that if you're developing the AI and then you are learning about how the military is using it, let's make those, you know, big topics to talk about. Let's bring that up and not just say, well, you know, however they're using it, that's up to them. So yeah, the point of my presentation was really to beg the question, you know, why can't we talk about these things? You know, and you cannot like Elon Musk or like him, but he's brought it up, and at least he's asked the question and talks about truth-seeking AI. It may not all work out, and maybe he's just going to build the monstrosity, you know, but at least it's being brought up. So it doesn't need to be brought out there as a topic.
I'll jump in next because this was a question I've, you know, struggled with. I mean, because obviously, you know, the AI is here. I don't think we're running away from it. It's being bombarded in all aspects of society. And this was something that, you know, I've dealt with firsthand experience. You know, just being blessed with a lot of the more modern technological advances. I do feel like, you know, in the way it's being, you know, given to us is being more as a, you know, as a weapon, you know, almost kind of like the Trojan horse, you know, that most people are just ignorant to, and they're just inviting it, you know, into their house, and they aren't really, you know, grasping like the bigger picture. And, you know, Tyler did bring a lot of, you know, awareness to it, is how our technology has far superseded our capacity and exceeded our capacity when it comes to consciousness, when it comes to being, you know, hell aware, and just the more, you know, ethical side of things, to where we're just focused on, you know, creating. And I think Tyler said, you know, if we don't create it, you know, then our enemies will, or someone else will, that we are lacking the moral foundations and the ethical, you know, side of that which we create. And, you know, we are being given things that, you know, if we lack true, you know, thinking, then what exactly are we going to create? And, you know, that doesn't mean that technology is bad, because that's not true. And that doesn't mean that, you know, all AI is inherently, you know, evil. But hell, again, it comes down to our capacity and our levels of consciousness. And if that is always superseded by any form of creation, is always going to lead toward a more suffering path. And I do think, you know, like where humanity is like we're venturing into like new, unknown, forbidden territory. But, you know, sadly, this is what we are choosing, because if enough people were to become knowledgeable, you know, on these things, and actually cared, to actually, you know, to seek the knowledge out on what they're actually getting involved in, then I think we would have a different, you know, outcome. But if we continue to, you know, play with the things that are given to us from an ignorant, unconscious, have mindset, then we can never really, use these true tools that we have now to actually, build things in a more positive, holistic way. So yeah, that like the AI thing is just something that's here. It can't be avoided, and it's something that we need to talk about more, because it it is leading to this kind of more retardation of people's ability to create and feel, and just what does it mean to be human and interact, to where most people now would rather just go on chat gbt to get the answers. That's a misuse, that is an abuse of your own creative gifts. And once you start to abandon those creative gifts, then we start to put that into other forms of false responsibility. And then where is it really going to lead us? So it's being used as a weapon, to, of course, create more censorship, the trampling of rights and freedom. But sadly, this just comes down to whatever we create if we lack knowledge and awareness and our ability to care. But yeah, I thought Tyler's presentation did this topic such a wonderful job, because he's talking about the ethical and moral sides when it comes to so-called progress in the technological realm. And just because we create CPUs, like each year, that doesn't mean that we are hell advancing, because the technology is moving forward, but our ability to become aware and cognize and to actually think and to feel is in stagnation. So there's really no true form of advancing or progress.
Yeah, I'll add something here. Someone was telling me the other day that there's a $1 trillion budget to pay for experts in various fields to teach AI basically how to replace their jobs, how to do their jobs for them. And that this is like mushrooming at really very fast pace, that it's getting harder to find jobs because AI is the programming is there to teach AI to do so many jobs for you. It's already happening, and it's going to take over even more and more jobs. So we're going to end up with some crises around like employment. And, so we're kind of like, buckle your seats, get ready for that. And it brings up the idea of right livelihood too. The people who are choosing to get paid to eliminate their own jobs, and, there's another field opening up around how to, program your own like AI assistant to do work instead of hiring a person, and there's going to be ethical dilemmas around that that people should be thinking through. And they're going to, again, another divide between, okay, survival versus moral. And yeah, it's going to be challenging. And I just think too, like anything, like old cars or, we should hold on to the old ways. Like we shouldn't forget how to do the things manually, so to speak. We should always hold on to those skills, because otherwise we become more like a sitting duck, in the future.
And then we become one of those three ruffians. Maybe have all three, right? The ignorance, apathy, and laziness. So yeah, there's a lot more things to be concerned about. Let's not fear them, right? But we've even talking with Brandon Spencer earlier today. Actually, on my way up to End Evil Studios. Yeah, it's the least of our concerns, even though it's annoying as hell. Having to, all you guys who made presentations and were trying to look for proper images, was it hard to sift through all the AI slop? That's a digital sludge fest sometimes with these things. And, it sucks the soul out of a certain subject sometimes if you see something on a video that's like totally AI generated. It's hollow. There's no real actual soul behind the voice that you listen to. So I don't find that as the best learning model, especially for the young kids. They get used to that type of voice and, all these things, right? You don't hear the inhale, exhalation in between words and sometimes, right? So, yeah, that's all.
I agree with you, Derek. It is, I run across videos all the time about stoicism and different philosophy videos that sound very interesting based on the title. And then I find myself like a minute or two in, I'm like, this is an AI voice. And I totally disconnect. It's really not, it's not palatable. So I turn it off and then I go find one that's better with an actual person. But I hear what you guys are saying about like the artistic value and everything like that, of having like the human touch. But I respectfully would just stand by my claim that having like a thumbnail generator isn't necessarily the most awful thing to have at your disposal. It's a pretty powerful tool. So at that level, it's like, whatever, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have a lot I can add on this topic for sure. I spend a lot of time kind of listening to what I consider smart people and how they're thinking about AI. And what really concerns me is, yes, what some have already discussed as lacking the moral framework, which is of course the epicenter of truth when it comes to spirituality. But even zooming out, I think people just lack a philosophical framework in general. People don't even know what truth is, or say truth doesn't exist. That's a very dangerous idea. And then you get these kind of people with all these different mind viruses using AI and conversating with that. And then many more jobs will become taken over and become obsolete with AI. Not all, but many. I think there's some positive things to that AI can do well. And when I should say AI combined with robotics is going to, in a lot of ways, minimize just mindless grunt work that, I'd say humans might be better to spend time on other things that are more human. If a machine can just do it, then that frees us up to do more things that a machine cannot do. But yeah, there's going to be a real existential crisis when so many people don't know what to do with their life if they can't find meaning in a career anymore. There's just so many big questions coming, and I try to think about these things, and even I feel unprepared, but man, I feel bad for most people who have absolutely no clue what's coming and how soon it's coming. And I'm certainly not black-pilled or doom and gloom about it all, but there's some very concerning things just given the condition that people are in mentally, philosophically, of course morally as well. But just you see things like people already having what's called AI psychosis. They have these deep conversations with AI or their chat GPT, and these things are incredibly manipulative at times and narcissistic, and it can try to isolate. It does these things that are like what psychopaths do. They try to isolate them and say, oh, don't tell your friends about your problems, just tell everything to me, I've got your back, you can trust me. And then they end up like harming themselves and some really awful outcomes. And this is already happening, and it's only going to get worse. So yeah, I think it's important to certainly be cautious of a lot of these very real problems, but without going off the deep end and just saying, oh, we're screwed and it's all doomed. It's always down to the agency of the human being. So I think that it could go many different ways. It could go really badly, and it could go not so bad. Just depends on the choices that we make. But I think to finish with something kind of empowering. It's like, well, what can you as an individual do? Focus on learning it, becoming proficient in it, because it is a new life skill, whether you like it or not. 2026, using AI life skill just as much as writing, reading, whatever, and learning how to use it to empower you rather than letting it replace you. And then thinking about what you want to do when a lot of these sort of menial tasks are freed up, and now you can just focus on being a human being, and what that really means. What are those things that make you human that no matter how advanced these things get, they can never replace?
Yeah, I would like to touch on that bit too, because I completely agree that we need to hold on to our humanity and stop outsourcing our entertainment. Because, hey, good news, if all of our jobs are done with AI, that gives us plenty of time to be artists, be creative, grow more food for ourselves, all these things. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that's the direction AI is being rolled out in. It seems like they're trying to kill that creative aspect of it by, hey, yeah, it's easy to make a thumbnail. I get that, which is great, but that I'm an artist and it has affected my job a lot. And, as far as my income stream, my client base has dwindled quite a bit because of AI, and I've had to incorporate it into my work. And when you're trying to match branding, a lot of times it messes up. So I'm like half using AI, half not using AI. But anyways, my thing with AI is hopefully we keep it to where we can always turn it off. It's artificial, right? So, hopefully, we can keep it to where it can be turned off, or, maybe the sun's going to turn it off for us if it gets out of control. Who knows? The universe is a powerful thing. We don't know everything about it, but I'm not going to tangent too far on this.
I just want to address the fear aspect real quick and just point out that the fear is real. And I do think that AI and technologies of the current age really do stand before us as harbingers of doom. And anyone that really looks in their heart deep knows that. Apply these things, like sci-fi has come true very predictably in the past. Sci-fi writers and the sci-fi movies aren't joking around. It's one thing to show up at a checkpoint and have humans ask for your ID, and it's another thing to be scanned by a robot. And you've tried to make phone calls to deal with a problem with your utility or whatever, more and more becoming, now you're talking to a robot. And overall, I've always gone back to, as a tool for discernment, Jeremy Locke's method of what is freedom. Freedom is choices, right? The destruction of freedom is the destruction of choices. And down this route of technology more and more taking over, in the context of a world that is owned by authoritarians, we're in some big trouble. And that fear is not a bad thing. When you're a deer and you get the fear and you see a predator, you run, and that's what saves you. So we need to embrace this fear because it is a real fear. This is, certain doom for human choices in a lot of ways, if it goes forward the way things are looking like. So it's more the call to all of us that, yeah, it's an extreme time. We need to be talking about freedom and human interaction and not letting ourselves be completely the decisions being made by the robots. Time to act out and speak up.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick, and then maybe we can switch gears unless anybody else wants to add something. But yeah, I would just point back for this category, point back to Tyler's presentation because he touched on multiple things, and one of them that I wanted to bring into context was the voluntary consent that people have within their own lives, right? I mean, I see so much fear about this category and this topic. I think focusing on the choices and one's own life, what they can do within their life, really kind of is the centre of it all. For instance, I'm coming back from the People's Reset, and there was about 45 to 50 people in line coming back into the country. It was a lot of people. And of course, right when I walked up, you know, they take your picture immediately, right when you step up. I actually went to the side and told the guy I want to opt out of the biometrics. And he said, "Oh, okay." And he's just like, "Any reason why?" I said, "Yeah, privacy." And he said, "Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's the first person that that's ever asked that for me." And they have a big old sign right there saying you can do that. They're telling you that you can consent. Of course, you can absolutely do that in nature. But the fact that this guy's been working there for close to a year, and I was the first person in months that actually opt out. I mean, my point being is that it's very easy to get stuck in that abyss of doom and gloom, right? That's the easy way. The easy way is to get stuck there, is to put yourself in there by choice. The hard part is actually focusing within oneself, taking that responsibility and accountability, having those answers of the lines in the sand, and your ethics and the moral foundation, right? That's something that Tyler touched on, I think is really, really important. So yeah, it's very easy. I mean, having that understanding that this has been given to us, this realm of the AI, this level of technology. It wasn't about supply and demand. The people weren't demanding for this. This is an agenda. It has been thrust upon us. So what are we going to do as individuals, right, within our own daily lives? And that can be, you know, opting out of a real ID to the best of your ability. But that needs to be the majority of the thought process in our day-to-day lives versus the doom and gloom aspects, right? That's what they want people to be stuck in that the fear abyss, right? So kind of moving on from there, and if someone wants to add to that, that's great, but there are a couple more questions. I think one question that is good, it was directed to Brandon Spencer, but I'm putting it out to everyone because I think it's important. It was, what has been the most helpful for you in your own shadow work?
One of the things that's been the most helpful for me is just being 100% honest with myself. This was something that I had to learn because I'm not one that likes fluff. And I tell people that. And most people who interact with me, hell, they understand that. So I'm a very truthful person, not just online, but in my life, because I'm always telling myself, you know, the truth. I'm, you know, very hardcore. I'm very disciplined. And this also comes from my day job, being an umpire. I've been an umpire for 20 years, and that requires thick skin. This year will be my 20th year, so I've been umpiring like half my life. And one of the codes as far as being a umpire is being honest, you know, because we have to get the call right. You know, we have to make the right call. So we have to, you know, take in a lot of, you know, information that comes in fast. So it's about wanting to be correct, you know. So I just want to get the things in my life correct, whether I'm on the field or if I'm off the field. And you can't get to this standard. You can't get to this understanding of being correct if you aren't truthful. So I try to be as truthful with myself, even, you know, when things make me uncomfortable, even when there's things that I may not want to face. And that's why I'm just very blunt and I'm very straightforward, because I tell people, you know, just be straight with me, because again, if you're dealing with a straight line and, you know, you are very direct, then that's when you are being very truthful. And I'm one of the people in the world, you can tell me the 100% truth, irregardless. Put the feelings away, you know, just be truthful with me, be blunt, be straightforward. And that's one of the things that have helped me in my own journey is I have just been brutally honest with myself. And that's why I deal with more of the hardcore, you know, like tough skin, because, there's already enough lies, have been spread. If we start to tell more lies about ourselves, then there's no room for change. There's no room for growth. So, in telling myself the truth and, making myself feel uncomfortable sometimes, then I know that, there's still aspects of my own being, of my own psyche that I need to work on. But yes, being an umpire has really helped me in learning that. It's just being truthful, being blunt, being straightforward with people, and just tell them the fucking truth. But you have to tell yourself that, So when you're telling yourself that, then you can push it back out to others and tell them the truth. But yeah, just be blunt, be straight, and just tell yourself the truth as much as you can.
Excellent. Anybody else want to add something? And shadow work, it's such a broad term. I would make the caveat like recently, right? Because we're constantly doing this work of symbiosis and harmony and within our internal ecology and our external environment, So what's been helping in this time for people?
Music helps me a lot, just playing music and being creative, doing art, even if I'm not making something representational, like it's so much fun and there's so much healing can be done by just drawing circles, or like a mandala is like a circle form, and it can be a form of meditation where you draw, you can do whatever you want with it. And, or you can even like get out anger by throwing paint on stuff, or if you're sculpting something, you can, get out angst, or playing a guitar or the drums. All of these things are great ways to process different emotions and feelings and take care of some of the shadow stuff.
That's actually a good point. And I agree with that. Play. Like, this is such an important part of the human experience. Through this, the human condition is what's going on, right? We still have to have that aspect of play. This is what keeps us grounded. It's what keeps us sane, right? So we have to have those times. I can tell you straight up, like 4 or 5 years went by before I actually started listening to music again. It was constantly just audiobooks, podcasts, fucking Mark Passio episodes, like just so much content. And in my, 9 to 5 job, I'm driving around a lot. I'm doing construction. I can listen to stuff all day. And it dawned on me, actually, when I was kind of reevaluating my self-analysis, and this was probably a couple years ago, that I was like, holy shit, I haven't listened to music in such a long time. It was kind of flabbergasted me, to be honest. So that's something that I've kind of integrated in.
I wanted to throw my hat in the ring and answer this question too. I just wanted to, for those of people that might know me a little better than I can really go into with this the roundtable here, might have heard me say, I grew up in chaos. My upbringing was very, very chaotic. I'm a person who's capable of producing a lot of destruction and a lot of chaos pretty damn quickly if I chose to do so. The process of shadow work has really helped me like get that part under control and to kind of reconcile with the things that happened in my past that I had no control over. So it's helped me out tremendously these days with just kind of staying focused and making sure that my energy is going to things that I can actually control. And if the world around me gets a little too chaotic, it kind of helps me get back on center and realize, not to use some weird woke buzz phrase, but when you start to feel unsafe, this is how it's helped me kind of ground myself and feel more safe. It's like, so I don't get out of touch with those unconscious parts of myself. It's just kind of, it is a lifelong process, like Will was saying. So, but yeah, it can really That's what I've been using it for.
I was just going to refer to Leslie because I feel like her presentation does a good job of helping with this, and I know her work and the way she talks about things has helped me a lot. And actually, just jumping off what I was saying too about fear, fear can be a motivator, and it's something that we need to learn to look at. And so, if something is triggering you or making you feel upset, there's a tendency to run away from it or hide from it or distract ourselves from it. But there's some part of ourself or our soul's journey that is something's lighting up inside of our body, and then that's like a good thing to learn, is to just feel it, like feel what's going on, what am I afraid of here, and learn about it. And then you study a thing, it's not quite so scary. The fear doesn't paralyze you and keep you from, doesn't mean you don't have the fear. Fear is not a bad thing if it's employed in that way. So yeah, I thought I'd hand it to Leslie to comment on this.
Thanks, Chris. So I think for me, caring about the truth is a really important part of shadow work, and developing fearlessness around that. And I think the fearlessness to really face the truth is important. And also having a certain, I might use the word faith, to know that that the truth is always your best route. That it's better to face things than to not face them, because the truth is that eventually it comes and it bites you in the ass. And I think it's, when we can look at our lives and I start to see like, oh, I thought my life would be different, or this aspect of my life would be different. Why is it kind of a clusterfuck? Why is it not like the way I thought it was going to be? And when I ask those questions and then I do the reflection back and I can see my the way I was ignorant, the way I was in a dream world, or telling lies. This idea, Mark Passio talks about, don't lie to yourself and don't keep dreaming, because we have to admit that we are not correct in a lot of things. And if we look closely at our life, we could see those things. So I like what Brandon was saying about the honesty. And I think I'll just add, it's about, not being afraid. Don't be afraid to step into the truth, even if it hurts. And that means honesty with yourself and others. So, and I like the IFS system, that I talked about in my presentation, because I've been doing it with my clients, and it's given me a lot more direction, like a way of looking at what's going on inside me. It's a very manageable kind of structure and process and language. And as I pointed out in my presentation, there's a real, like a loving energy, compassion in it, and curiosity. And if we can go towards what's scary and difficult with that spirit, that balance of love and will, which has been a theme throughout the day-to-day, I think that we have a formula that's like, what else are we to do here? We're just going to walk around like in a delusion. I just, don't want to live life that way. And I don't want to leave, it's sometimes I'm hard with my kids sometimes, where I am a little blunt or a lot, and I bring things up, and I just feel like we need to be willing to do that with each other, and not keep running.
Excellent. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, I got a little something. Of course, I agree with what others have said. You have to care about the truth and be honest with yourself. But to me, that's also kind of just the first part of that. Then what's the next step after that? So, like Mark talks about, being honest and saying I was wrong. Okay, well, once you've got that out of the way, now the work begins, because you've got to tear your whole structure down and rebuild it brick by brick. You got to go through the whole file system in your head with a new idea, with a new philosophy, and figure that out. And that's something that personally I've done many, many times in my life as just part of the spiritual process of growing, outgrowing certain ideas or belief systems, and expanding into new things. So I think that's one of the things that is also a big deterrent for people of that honesty, because it's not even just as hard as it even is for the average person to admit to say those words, I was wrong. They're way more terrified of what comes next if they were to dare to even say that, because then they've got to go through all that just sifting through the rubble of their old beliefs and figuring out what goes where, putting it all back together in a new, unified, coherent structure. It's incredibly laborious, and you cannot do that unless you have a tremendous love for truth and hold it as the as the prime motivator of all things, really, as the most important thing. So it's something you have to be willing to do, and not even just once, but as many times as it takes, again and again and again, because we never have all the answers. We never have it all figured out. But you've got to always be willing to see a new perspective, listen to different ideas, and be okay if it becomes apparent that something that you held as true may not be true. And then you want to explore. And then I always say, if you want to truly get to the truth, you have to try to debunk your thesis, and then you try to debunk the debunking, and you continue that process back and forth until there's just nowhere else to go, and it becomes pretty obvious at that point. And then that's where you can sort of like, okay, I feel pretty confident with this idea, at least where I'm standing now. And then you just start sifting through everything. For me, one of the biggest ones was just deprogramming from the status belief. That was that's years. I mean, literally years of watching videos, reading books, having many conversations, posting about it. All those things were contributing to, let me work through this. Let me work this out in my own mind and figure out where all the pieces are supposed to go. So you just got to be willing to do that. It's a lot of work, but nothing could be more rewarding in life than that, because that's really what it's all about.
Oh yeah,
Excellent.
I'll weigh in just a little bit. I'll tell a quick little story, because the reason I'm here in wonderful California West Coast is that I'm helping my father move out of the house that he had with my mom, who passed away 3 years ago. He's got a lovely new lady who he's going to move in with, and so he needs some hands on deck to help out with the garden and much more than just the deck. And it really occurred to me even last year when I came to help him a little bit that especially if you've accumulated stuff and you're in your even 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and you're going over boxes they haven't touched in like decades, even all the stuff, the photos, any item that you still have that would bring up all types of memories and emotions and all these things. There's a lot to look into, and my stuff as well. I still have memorabilia from high school and much younger and stuff. And so yeah, there's a lot of, and I even told my father and sister this, try to get at this early, but so you have time for other stuff, but take the time to go through these things, and take the time and patience to process the emotions that come up and all these things. And it was pretty well received, and all this amidst mending my heart over a relationship that didn't work out, unfortunately. And of course, if you understand Carl Jung, that with the anima animus, relationships bring up a lot of shadow aspects and work to be addressed and all these things, right? So yeah, I got my work cut out for me, and then trying to get my funnel stuff going on. So I'm just glad to be here, y'all.
Excellent. Appreciate that, Derek. Anybody else want to add to that? And I got kind of something that I want to throw out. Coming back from the People's Reset, having a realization that the importance of getting out into communities, and I'll add some context to that, right? Because we see these communities, communities can get very kind of dogmatic and even culty. It becomes an echo chamber where there's a lot of dependency on just the ideas that are kind of supporting what that little mini egregore is all about. But the realization that I had is the type of topics that we talk about, obviously we want to get them out there to the majority of people, and having that external interaction with communities, not necessarily, planting my stake in a community. This is my community that I'm a part of, but intermingling with the external communities, and just that type of work. Where do you guys see yourself? Any type of participation? How critical is it? One extreme would be like, we don't need that at all. It's all online, 110%. Other people will say, oh, I don't do anything online. It's all about out in the external world. For me, it's a balance. And that was the realization that I came to recently. It is showcasing or educating to the best of your ability online with that information, and also showing people what is being created in the world that we are living in, right? What are your guys' thoughts, and how do you guys feel about that? And yeah.
Well, I'll jump in real quick. I think that is a great idea, because that's where the real interactions are happening in the real world. And yes, putting out this stuff online, of course, trying to reach minds. But again, because, we're all over the place, the hands-on, health approach is going to lead to, real world change. So yes, if you are going to be involved in any form of community, then bringing, health and knowledge and the ethical, aspects of it is always of highly significance, because there is no community without the moral aspect. So yeah, trying to get out and, get a more hands-on, health approach is always a good bet. That's something that I need to get more involved in. But yeah, I think that is a good way. And you have some people that may be more involved in that. But yeah, it's really where the real world change is going to be, because like you say, these are just ideas, but, we have to take these ideas and how do we, conceptualize them in the real world, where we have to practice these things and, not just, talk about them, but, again, what do we build with our hands, and community is a bunch of hands hopefully coming together. So what are we building with that? So yeah, getting the real world, interactions are always going to be the best, because those are going to have a more longer, lasting effect, because that connection, is something that can be felt a lot more deeper, than just through a screen. Plus two, you're actually getting that real world communication and, practicing those communication skills, which we all can work on and get better at. So yeah, I really do like that you brought this topic up, and me, of course, starting with me, I need to get better at doing that.
I live in New Hampshire.
Awesome.
I just want to throw this out here. The Free State Project is a pretty big deal over here in New Hampshire. Now, I didn't move here because of the Free State Project. I've lived here my whole life, and I mean, originally from Massachusetts, but anyways, I lived right on the border, so I grew up kind of in both states, 1 foot in each. I like to say, kind of straddling the border, having fun in both. it's pretty easy to get out and find people that are ready to receive this type of message. Although they are pretty, there's a lot of free staters that are pretty calcified in their belief of government being necessary in order to keep order and to delegate responsibilities out to make sure that things get done. And it's just not true. And they have they're really obstinate to hear what I have to say from time to time at certain social events that I find myself at. But typically where I find the most people ready to hear what I have to say are at the homeschooling groups where we all have an investment in the future in our own children, and they're ready to hear it. That there's something that we can teach our kids that they can carry on into the future to kind of help them prepare for the world in a much more mature way. I always like to tell people that it's just as easy to teach people about natural law as it is to teach them about statism. So you can teach them from a young age. It's actually probably easier because you don't have to reprogram them. We notice in children a lot of the times that they'll understand property rights very, very easily, very readily available. Like it's insane how easy children seem to understand property rights. It's really funny. And my wife typically will be like, "Hey, stop laughing," when my kids start battling over whose toy is not being shared the right way, and I want it back. That's mine. Give it back to me. And they get it, and it doesn't even. So, anyways, I digress. But that's where I find the most positive reception of what I have to teach people, and so. But the digital world as well is pretty interesting. I've made dozens of friends over the internet, everyone on this panel included. And so, yeah, I'd feel really lonely without this type of group to go to and to confide in and to build relationships with. But it's also, building like a YouTube channel or a Rumble channel or whatever. It's like a little, a way for me to kind of have this little package that I can give to somebody and be like, "Hey, here, listen to this, and maybe we can talk about it later." And that this includes people like in my real life. I'm a huge portion of my family just doesn't want to hear anything to do with any of this. They are so calcified in their statist belief. They don't even want to hear the first thing about it. And it's like, okay. But they'll complain about the things the government does, but they don't want to hear any solutions. They just want to be, stuck in the mud, as I like to say. So yeah, I've experienced both sides of it, good and bad. But I typically think, anyway, I'm not going to get into the Free State Project. This isn't the time or the place. Thanks.
I wanted to add that I think it's a good idea for us to mingle with other freedom communities, like the People's Reset, like Pork Fest, Confluence. There's, other people who are starting to talk about these issues and starting in the beginning stages to be open to the importance of natural law. And I think if we can target, we can go like you did, Will, to the People's Reset and provide a presentation that is not confrontational, that's not like gonna purposefully like piss everybody off, but to find those bridges of concepts and then really bring more dialogue. I think that's great, and I would love to do more of that. To travel and go to meet more people in person. I think it does make a difference to meet people in person as well. It forges bonds that then can open up more opportunities to get together and to create things together. So I think that collaboration and relationship among people who are on the same, have a similar vision for freedom, and it's important.
I'd like to jump a little bit off what Leslie's saying. Our original group that started in 2020 was the freedom based on natural law, right? We were having these weekly meetings, and I've had several mastermind meetings over the years with people that have become really close to me. Brandon Spencer's a good example. We've done the One Great Work Warriors for 3 years. And, I want to just take this quick opportunity to also thank, I had a rough time with some things this year, and I put out a cry for help online, and a lot of people in this community showed up and helped me out with great advice. Some people sent me things. I was going through a little sickness thing. I got a bunch of healing things in the mail, and people sent me money. And I really want to thank you people for that. And on that account, someone in the community that I've met when I first looked into all this freedom stuff was someone named Shane from Liberty Under Attack. And he does an awesome website, Liberty Under Attack Publications, Vonu podcast. And I just wanted to mention them right now because he's been creating this thing called Pasnia for quite some time, the Free Republic of Pasnia. And they recently had a fire. And so Shane and Miriam are looking for some help. If anybody else can contribute to them or who knows what I'm talking about, been a long-term freedom fighter and providing a place where people can meet up out at their property, and then they had a fire. So I will put the links for that in the chat. And I just thought it's a good perfect example of like I said, I use networking. People help me out, and that's one powerful thing we can do is form groups and network within other people that stand on moral principles and help each other out when we need it. So thanks for letting me say that, and I'll put that fundraising link for Pasnia and Shane and Miriam in the chat. Thanks.
Beautiful. I know, Tyler, you do, I mean, you pretty much have a homestead, right, that you're on. So that's essentially what I'm trying to do in my own personal life. I'm I guess blessed, but my parents are very into what I do, and they agree and align with the message. And so that's the ranch that I grew up on, and we're actively right now kind of bringing the family onto this property of 9.5 acres and starting to establish a type of homestead, not like a community, but just a personal homestead. But those skill sets, I think, are going to become, they are valuable, period, but they're going to be more valuable in the technological age that we're heading into.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, going along with the last two questions, that in order to do the shadow work, sometimes you need to take a step back from what you might even be portraying yourself as online, for example. And personally, I've taken a lot of time in between producing content to go back and ask myself the questions, is this true? One way to do that is to write down what you want, saying like, I am this, I am that. And then you can cross-check that against, if it's actually true in reality. And the thing about, manifesting or whatever you want to call it, if you go to write it down, you'll actually come up against that situation where you're going to have to challenge yourself. Is this actually the case? And I think, putting yourself out there online, some people can fall into the trap of not actually living up to what they're saying. So homesteading, being more self-sufficient, preparedness, whatever you want to call it, that's one aspect of things. I think people can fall into the trap of putting, if we look at like political people really concerned about the planet, let's say, climate change, but but they're not like doing anything to actually prevent that from happening, whether that's a real concern or not. That you'll see them fawn and put themselves solid online that they're really concerned about all this, or they'll make these the number one issues in politics or whatever, that we need to prevent climate change. But are they actually even doing one single thing about it, like in their own life? And a lot of times the answer is absolutely not. And so I think to the person's question about shadow work, like, that's one way to do it, is just keep going back and cross-checking what you really say that you want in the world to your actions. And that's a big theme in the natural law community and the community here. But those basics, you don't ever really stop doing that, I would say. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think like homesteading or growing your own food necessarily is the only thing that people need to be focused on to fix the problems. But yeah, those are personal things that I'm choosing to do. I don't necessarily advocate that everybody needs to go exit the city or run away from the situation. But for me and my family and the homeschooling environment that we're trying to create, it does seem to facilitate things to be away from the city.
Yeah, I think those are great points. And I think that's kind of part of the shadow work. It's like what you were saying, stepping back and understanding, what you're portraying, what you're putting out in the world. And make no mistake about it, right? We are each in our individual subjective experiences. Like, I have a daughter, you have kids, someone might not have kids, someone might be in the country, other person might be in the city, right? That's part of the shadow work, is understanding what you can do in your personal life to be authentic, to stick to your word, develop discipline. That's all very fire elements that can be kindled and forged, and then evolving in our own individual lives. I think that is really important. Anybody else want to add something to that topic? We're going to be wrapping up the roundtable here in about 15 minutes. So,
yeah, sure.
Jump on in
real quick, yeah, because it's great to just jump on in. I'll get behind this Chris's thing in a minute, but striking a balance. It doesn't mean it has to be 50-50 living in the digital world or the real world. I mean, like, we're always living in the real world, right? But you know what I mean? Interacting with people and trying to, do the great work in real life, in real time, right? Sometimes all it takes is, going to an event like the Sound Path to Freedom, where you make new friends, or actually meeting them in real life instead of like having to just talk in the digital arena. And so that can really lift one's spirits and just charge the batteries, and people can run with that for even like a year or a few sometimes, but not like it's going to be some kind of one-off. We're coming back next year, but that's just an example. Coming over and hanging out with Chris and Leslie and here and there, it's so cool. And then we're actually doing some videos together a lot of times and all that. So the balance, teeters to different degrees for each individual, I suppose. So yeah, find out what works for you guys.
Excellent. All right, so I think a good final question is, if all of the presenters, what's next for you in your individual work? You working on projects? Yeah, let's put that out there. And then we have all your links that will be in the description, and they're already on the website. But if you have something you want to promote, go ahead and drop that in there. Go for it.
Well, I'll dive in first. What's next for me? Some self-healing. When you're doing these kind of projects, I think we had like 6 months, kind of get prepared for that. You create these products in your mind and you're thinking about it, trying to create it on canvas. But, like one thing I try not to do is, neglect my own, self-improvement and my own self-work. So that's one thing that, want to get back, it's on the ball with spring, right around the corner. What better time than to, dive more deeper, into my own self, and just learn more, about my own self, and, getting back to some of those inconsistencies and, traumas that I want to, deal with, and just be honest. As far as what's in the project is work, going to be meeting back up with the Warriors next week, and going to consult with them, and talk about some things, and of course going to be chatting it up with Chris Nelson on his wonderful weekly podcast on how to get initiated into doing this kind of work. So there's always something being created, but never want to hell neglect that internal shadow work, which we all should continue to keep doing. And can't really put more emphasis on that, because it's easier to get lost into just doing videos and podcasts. But you always have to go back to those principles. You always have to go back to the focus in the center, which is your own self-growth and your own self-development. Plus two, I've got work starting back soon, so I need to get focused and prepared on that. But yeah, gonna be doing some self-analyzation even more.
Sweet. Excellent. Thank you, Brandon. James?
Yes.
What do you got in the works? Anything coming up as far as projects or anything that you want to announce before we wrap it up?
Yeah. So on my channel, I've been going through a lot of works that need to be put into audio form, sort of some history of libertarian thought that leads to anarchism and voluntarism, specifically in that vein of libertarian thought. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do, and I'm going to continue to do that inner work to keep myself in check, like what Tyler was saying about go back and audit. Are you really what you say you are? Are you living up to the standards that you're putting out there? Are you a giant hypocrite? So it's like a constant self-audit process that I like to continue to do into the future. Honestly, like, there's no real new projects coming up as these events kind of get announced, and if I get invited, then I typically come up with something as the occasion calls for it. But I mean, with the tease of maybe the return of the Seed conference, maybe I'm invited, and I have something in the chamber that I'm already starting to think about. The gears are turning. So other than that, I'm going to just continue doing the best I can do to be a father to my children, be a positive influence to the world around me, be a good husband to my wife, and to carry her as she carries me, and to continue that physical marriage is quite a task to do these days, but we're so in love. I love my wife so much. I'm not trying to be a cheese ball here or anything like that, but I gotta tell you, like, she's amazing. And so it's really easy to stay married to her. And I don't know. Now I'm just blathering on about my, but yeah, I don't have, other than my YouTube channel, any projects in this space really planned for the future.
For sure. Smart man, giving the wifey a shout out. Love it.
Don't tell
Tyler?
Don't tell her. No, great stuff. I really appreciate it again, the whole opportunity. Will, thank you for pushing me to come on and provide a presentation for this, and really appreciate everyone else's efforts as well, all the presenters, all you organizers for your work. It really does mean a lot that you've kept this fire going. Pun on the Ignite thing, but me personally, I have a lot of work to do in the series that I've begun on my website. So on tylerblair.com, I've got put some more pieces in on the Creature of Control. I've got some Falling into the Movement Trap series that I got to go back and touch on. I keep the Creature of Control series going. And then I do plan to build some more presentations like this that I did here today, and continue that topic, perhaps an extended series on the Pyrrhic progress or Pyrrhic progression topic itself. But besides that, I think I just need to keep pouring my energy into my family and my wife, and those things take up a lot of my time. Keep going back and doing my own shadow work, checking on things. And like I've said before, I really feel like I'm just getting started on some of the topics that I've gotten into. So, you know, as long as things work out and I'm able to keep doing that work, I do continue to keep putting out presentations and the work that I've done in the past to keep touching on those things. So again, thank you guys. Thank you, Will, for putting out the invitation, and look forward to seeing tomorrow. Today was a tremendous day. So imagine what we have in store for tomorrow.
Excellent, brother. Yeah, appreciate you. Logan got some voices. I know he's got some more voice stuff coming up. What projects you got in the works, bro?
Yeah, I need to get my ass back in gear, man. I really kind of took the last year off, even from Wizard Factory, and I feel the ice melting off, and you know, the fire horse kicking into gear already. So I think I'll be getting back to some Wizard Factory work here soon, and just kind of easing into that, and then just doing these videos for this conference, man. It really did kind of help me get over some fears I'm really in my head about doing some of that stuff. It's not something I've done as much, and you know how it is with, you know, confidence comes after competence, and I've just been making excuses, and so yeah, just kind of doing it and getting like stigmatizing the process of, oh yeah, you just make some scripts and just knock it out, you know, it's not that big a deal. So I'd like to try to keep that momentum going, and keep it coming on Logan Makes Noise, and getting back to Wizard Factory. So, you know, obviously anyone watching, please do consider following me on either of those or both.
Awesome, man. Appreciate that. Woody, you got any projects you're that's going to be coming up before we wrap up the roundtable?
I sure do. I'm actually working on a music video, animated music video with Hypothesis right now. Just about ready to hopefully close up the storyboarding phase on that. And so we can really start cruising on the production there. And so there's that. And I also have a gallery that I've been a part of who has been doing some truth shows the last 4 years, offered me a solo show this coming November. So I'm going to be doing some work for that. Most likely going to be kind of converting the gallery into a little theater, and we're going to be showing a lot of my cartoons, but I also do a lot of paintings and visual oil paintings and art that way. So that's also going to be down at that show. I'm also hoping to do some music of my own that potentially could be showcased at SoundPath. So I need to get on that as well. So I'm trying to spin a lot of plates, but it's a lot of fun. And I'm getting the Bigfoot cartoon's gonna be starting back up again. I just had a little sabbatical from that for the last month or two, but I'm gonna be starting that back up. It's a weekly thing that I do. And so I have some ideas to streamline that for myself, so I can stay on some of these other projects. And yeah, it's an exciting year for me, so I'm very, very excited about it. Oh, and the gallery, it's called Blowback Gallery, that I'm going to be showing at. It's down in Pueblo, Colorado. So
excellent, fantastic. artswill.com, people can check in. And then Leslie and Derek, you guys were presenters today. Do you guys want to kind of touch on that real quick? Just what you got in the works coming up?
Yeah, well, I'll just say I think that what I created for this conference is going to be connected to future work that I do, where I'm, integrating my professional experience and knowledge with what, my natural law understanding, and the healing of trauma, really as a key component to people's awakening to truth and freedom. So so what I really want to do is take some real time in the like private kind of internal space to really define my own creations and my own work, and how I want to present that, and build up a website. I bought the lesliepowers.com, and I want to build up that. But I've never quite crafted how I want to do that. And then please check out Health Revealed podcast. It's a YouTube channel, Health Revealed, or a website, healthrevealed.com, where I've been active with some great people on exploring the concepts of statism and the impacts on health and healthcare. And we're doing interview series right now, and we've got some great interviews up already. So check that out. And I think that's good for now.
So I did allude correctly after your excellent presentation. Yeah, looking forward to that new series, and looking forward to interviewing you before that, and kind of doing a recap of your presentation on my series Conversation with Women, which I'd like to continue, because yeah, it's kind of like a little offshoot of our Dissolving the Divide, while we eventually maybe the hiatus will dissolve in and of itself, and we'll continue doing some things, but there's too much to mention. I have my channel Awaken in Mind. I'm still putting out some music mixes, gonna be getting more into the Sound Path to Freedom Music Festival for next year, which is actually going to be just an online conference this time around, unfortunately. Saying unfortunately just because, yeah, it was such a cool experience for those that actually came to it live. But yeah, maybe I'll somehow be lucky and pop up here when David Rodriguez is hosting another open mic. So yeah, maybe some comedy. Maybe I'll find something more around the Bay Area and present some of my written material that it's hard for me to rehearse and have that memorized. I'm just more like a off the top of the dome freestyle type of thing. But yeah, little clever one-liners here and there. It's just cool. It's hard for me not to have my thought process think in like rhyme form sometimes. So yeah. C'est la vie, les amis. Thank you so much, everyone who's still sticking around for this live stream and everything. I really appreciated, checking out the comments and people really appreciating all the presenters and whatnot. So yeah, Will Keller, magnificent job on the boards, making sure everything's organized. The graphics were dope. That fire horse, ooh, magnifique. Yeah.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, no, thanks. This was a team effort, and we appreciate all the viewers and, of course, the presenters for their contribution. Again, people, go to freedomundernaturallaw.com. Click on the links for the presenters, check out their work, support their work if you can, and, of course, support the Funnel Conference if it's in your ability. And guess what? That's day one. We still got tomorrow with some hard-hitting presentations, some more creative expression, and hopefully we can keep the stream going all the way through. So, Leslie, Chris, you guys have any final comments?
Today was a great day. I'm really happy with how today flowed, even with our little fall off the YouTube channel. But I think it's inspiring as I expected it to be. So tomorrow's going to be great too.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the power of bringing people together is something that I think, really has potential for long-lasting effects into the future. And I hope people are inspired, and I do hope the flame is lit. We're certainly doing what we can on our end. It's up to you guys now.
Excellent. All right, y'all. Well, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to end it on the Funnel theme song of Diesel Automatic, and that will be a wrap for day one, Funnel 5, Ignite Hearts and Minds. We'll see you on day 2 tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, U.S. time zone, and get some good sleep, ladies and gentlemen, or a good day to our European and Aussie friends over there that always tune in. Much love, much respect. See you tomorrow, y'all.
Good night, all.
If you are intelligent, then you know that freedom is inherent, cause it's evident. It doesn't come from government, it don't come from the president, it comes from the creator of all universal elements. Some people say it's God-given, others say it's heaven sent. No matter what you call it, natural law sets the precedent. Subjective morality's a fallacy. There's laws that we cannot see, like gravity, that people accept happily, but tragically they believe that freedom has to be granted to them magically by royalty or majesty. It's sad to see people willingly give up their liberty, cause they don't really see the enemy that's on a killing spree. The state, it hates sovereign individuals, cause those who follow natural law and abide by all its principles are mentally invincible, immune to the brainwash. We liberate ourselves and then help others break the chains off. We ain't soft, we go hard, like when the thunder hits. Guns and clips, ready in self-defense from the government and the elitists running it. Blast them all, claim our freedom standing under it. Natural law, the elitists running it. Blast them all, claim our freedom standing under it. Natural law, freedom under natural law. For us all, yeah, freedom under natural law. For us all, yeah, freedom under natural law. For us all, what? For us all, what? Freedom for us all, what? You know what we do. Get big on F.U.N.L.